last year I had a hen. She was sitting on eggs, and I miscalculated the time. I thought she still had a
We're
few more.
talking about button quail, by
We're
the way.
talking
A little
about,
different intro today. We were
yeah,
already talking about it, and I said we got to record this.
yeah, and
So,
Jay's hen just hatched some chicks
is this
naturally.
a is this a good view? I
Yeah,
can't see what I'm
let's see.
showing.
You can. It's all red, but you can see him walking around in there. It looks awesome.
Yeah,
And
it's
for those that don't know, I mean, button quail, they have been their eggs have been pulled and incubated for so many generations that
thousands of generations.
it's harder to get them to naturally sit on their eggs and hatch them out. You'll have hens that are still broody and they'll sit on their eggs, but after about 4 or 5 days, they give up and they're gone. And I was telling Jay that last year I had a hen. She was sitting on eggs, and I miscalculated the time. I thought the eggs still had like 5, 6 days left to hatch. And my wife and I actually went out on a little vacation. And so the person that was feeding my birds calls me, and it was like the second day that we were gone. Was like, "Hey, you got like a bunch of chicks running around the ground," and most of them actually, unfortunately, had died because I had other button quail in there, and they
Hmm.
attacked the chicks, and so none of them didn't make it. And I was actually really bummed because I love naturally hatching the chicks. It's just I love watching the moms sit on them, and you see all these little heads poking out from underneath her and things like that. And it's really fun, and watching her like teach them what to eat, what not to. So I was kind of bummed that it didn't work out and we were gone, and I was not prepared. And unfortunately, the chicks paid the price. But in the past, I have hatched some out, and it's so fun. I love seeing them out in the aviary, like natural floor, even just in a cage, watching the moms teach the chicks. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I was telling you before we hit record. I mean, I was completely that they lay all the time.
Yeah.
They sit on them, and I'm so desensitized to the point where I didn't even account. I didn't pay any attention for what day they were on. And it was last Saturday, I was cleaning the aviary, and then all of a sudden I looked down and I posted on my Instagram and there was a chick coming out. And I was like, oh man, so I had to run in and tell my wife, like, hey, surprise, I'm going out of town this week and we have baby birds, and which she's awesome as usual. And then I went back out to finish cleaning the aviary and thought, okay, surely not many more or any more. And then there was another one already hatched and ended up getting four. Um, and then the lady, my friend Cindy, who hand feeds for me, she asked for some button quail eggs put in her incubator. She ended up having seven. So I went from never having baby buttons to now I have 11. So, and I was telling Chris, I can't keep any of them because I've got three males and six hens. I have no idea who's mom or who's dad. We got a Maury episode in the making here. So if you're wanting baby button quail, hit me up because
Yeah.
apparently I'm now a button quail machine. So, but yeah, they're the size of a bumblebee. I can't stop watching them. They're just cute as can be. If I
They're so
spend the
fun
whole
to watch.
episode looking that way, that's why.
Hands down, my
And
favorite baby birds right there.
yeah, they are, they're like right now they're tired. So that when they fall asleep, instead of laying down gracefully, they just thunk over and go to
Yep.
sleep. I mean, it's so cute.
And lots of
But
times,
yeah,
like they'll like stretch their legs out, like they're like full on, like laying on a sofa, just enjoying life.
they're just babies. They're just cute as can be. Um, anyway, I'm Jay,
And I'm Chris the Bird Nerd,
and
and
we
we
are
are the Bird
the Bird
Brains. Oh,
Brains.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's good. It's all right.
I thought it was good on my end. I thought we were
Okay,
dead on
good.
my
It
end.
sounds
We've
like I
been
was way
getting
ahead.
better. I
We
don't know if you've noticed in the comments, we've been getting some high scores lately.
I appreciate the approval of everyone out there. We try, you know.
Yeah, we're never going to stop. So I don't even know. I think we came up with that on the fly, like right,
That was
like
it
just
was
yeah.
just hanging out, chatting, and we decided to record it. It was nice. But Button Quell are my favorite. Well, I have a love hate relationship with them, Jay. I actually love Button Quell. I think they're a lot of fun. They clean up your bottom aviary. They're a good addition to any aviary. Uh, but in all honesty, there's two things I don't like about them. They got stinky poop, and
Hmm.
especially in the wintertime when you have to enclose your bird and it's a little bit more muggy. And sometimes they can have a tendency to peck baby birds as they either fall out of the
Uh,
nest or come out on the ground. So you have to be aware of those two. But other than that, I love them, and I probably will always have them at some point throughout my birds just because they're so much fun to have. Good ground bird.
yeah, I feel the same way. I really like they don't add to uh, your bio load, right?
Yeah,
They do from a poop perspective, but they don't count as a bird in the aviary really because they stay on the ground. They're not up flying. But they are. I always tell people if they were anything bigger than the size of my fist, they would be the apex predator on the planet. They're
yeah,
shockingly vicious.
yeah,
But they're so tiny that it doesn't matter. But if they, I mean, a button quail the size of a dog would be more dangerous than an alligator.
yeah.
I mean, they,
And I don't think they're naturally aggressive. I mean, I've had some males that they've been aggressive, and I've had to pull
I
them.
had a hen that was a
And
battle axe.
but I think their natural instinct is I see movement, and that's food. I don't think it's so much like a territorial issue more
No,
than I see
it's
movement and I want to fill my belly up because they're vacuums.
right. It's a lizard brain type reaction of
Uh-huh.
"Zup, zup, zup,
Yeah.
zup, zup, zup." Yeah, but
Yeah.
it is amazing. Um, and what your story kind of ties us into what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about, we got a great questions from Charles Cole. Big shout out to Charles. What do you do if you go on vacation?
The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. Bird Brains, Bird Brains. The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. Bird Brains, Bird Brains.
All right. Before we talk about vacation, huge shout out to our sponsor, New Zealand.
You guys are awesome.
Really excited. I had a fun interaction. I'm always helping people, right? My DMs are always full of people. Hey, I'm having this going. What do I do? And one of our followers is having a mite issue,
Mm,
which it's never ending. I have mites going on in the aviary right now. I'm sure it's the only thing I
yep.
like about winter coming in is bye bye mites
I agree. Yes.
because they die. And so I got him set up on. He's got, I think, two kinds of mites. I think he has scaly face and feather.
Okay.
So I got him set up on Scat, which does air sac and scaly face, and then Scale X, which is just the feather mite spray I like. And there's a bunch;
Hmm.
they're all good.
Yep.
And he said, "Well, what other medications do I need?" And I talked to him, through the ones that I use. He said, "Where do I get those?" And I said, "Wait,
Yeah.
you don't need them right now, and they're about to be on the New Zealand website." So I'm really excited to. I mean, I'm going to use it. Frankly, I'm excited to have a
Yeah.
one-stop shop
Absolutely.
to be able to. We've sort of created our own monster here of everything we need in one spot. So
I know we're gonna be emptying our pockets more than we want to, but it's all for the birds, right? And New Zealand's been great. They've been working with us. We got the Bird Brains perch box that's coming out quickly. Hopefully, we're just wrapping up a few loose ends on their side, and just hopefully we'll be able to
mhm.
announce that here pretty soon and do an unboxing and show you guys the awesome stuff that you could get with that subscription. I think it'll be really cool. Very excited, and they are constantly adding things to their inventory through recommendations of Jay and I or others. They really want to be that one stop shop for everybody, small birds up to large birds. So it's a great place. If you haven't yet, go on, check out their websites. And if you already have, keep going back on because they're constantly adding things every week
Mhm.
for our birds. So,
Yeah, and if you're thinking, um, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. If you're trying to figure out how to do it, if you're thinking, oh, I don't know, what food to get, all those things, we've done our best to sort of take the guesswork out of that for
yeah.
you. And then part of the unboxing and some other things, when it is all up on the site, we'll probably do a podcast episode and give you like a triage of like a, what to buy when layout of
Yeah.
what you can get off the website. But today's topic, it's not going to be long because there's only a few answers, but what do you do if you go on vacation? Um, for me, I'll tell you, I'll just be honest. I travel for work during the week. So when I'm home on the weekends, I don't like to go somewhere, but it happens. You get a wedding or
Yeah.
something, or every once in a while my wife and I do go on vacation when she decides she would like to spend some time with me. Um and and so I hate it. From a bird perspective, I hate
Yep.
not the while we're sitting here, I just got the high temp alarm on one of my cameras in the aviary, and my first thought is, oh, there's a fire. The temperature alarm went off 91 degrees, and the reason that is because right under that camera, I've got a Gouldian nest right now that I'm worried about the chicks being too cold, so I put the heater right there. So it's just wafting onto the camera, and I just got to calm down. But when you're not there, even you can have all the cameras in the world, doesn't replace. I went and I looked, and they're good,
Well, and
right?
especially during breeding season, right, Jay? I mean, it's
Hmm.
it's it's really hard to leave your birds. If you've got chicks in the nest, you got birds that are starting to breed. You got multiple species. Each species has a little bit different needs, I guess, that you can say daily needs to be successful in the breeding season. So it's a lot, and it's a lot to ask people that are watching your birds when you're out of town, whether it's your spouse or a friend or a family member, whatever it is. Uh, I almost feel guilty asking these people to do all of this stuff because when it comes to my birds, I'm type A, and usually I'm a generally relaxed dude and kind of go with the flow. But when it comes to my birds, it's a specific agenda, and you got to do it a certain
Yeah,
way every time. And each cage may be a little bit different. So sometimes during the breeding season, I get more anxiety leaving the birds because that's usually
yeah,
when something
same.
goes wrong. But
And it'll change, right? And I know everything in my head that's going on out there. But just as an example, I've got some grow out cages, and I had some young Gouldians in the grow out cage not that long ago, and so they got added that cage, which normally would not, because normally birds that have fledged and are young birds just growing out don't need egg food, but want to make sure the Gouldians were transitioning smoothly, so they got added to the egg food list, which isn't a big deal for me in the morning, but for my wife when I'm leaving, I had to say, hey, don't forget. And I've done some stuff in the aviary to simplify things. So
yes.
I've numbered all the foods and I've numbered all the cages.
Oh,
So
that's
like
that's a good idea.
my wife and I went on a big trip last year and we were gone for like 10 days and my mother-in-law stayed at, or my in-laws, but my mother-in-law took care of the birds in the morning. And so to make it easy for her, I labeled the foods, and then each cage I took a piece of scotch tape and put the food number that they got. So she didn't have to call me or text me or ask me. It was like, okay, these cages get food number one, these cages get food number two. Very straightforward. So um, I've done stuff like that. The main thing is I've used a bird sitter.
Hmm.
If we're gonna go out of town just for the weekend, if it's not breeding season, I don't worry about it.
Yep.
Um, my cage is set up, and we've talked about this before. All my cages are set up to run from Saturday to Saturday, hypothetically, with no human intervention except for egg food. So the majority of checking on my birds, if I'm not there, is you just walk in, you make sure there's no birds on the ground, you make sure all the waters are still full, that one didn't get knocked over or something crazy. You make sure that there's still seed in every cage, and then you're good. During the breeding season, egg food, insects, all those things come into play. But so finding a trusted person that can do that, whether that's your spouse, a neighbor, if you have like a teenager, great job for a teenager.
Yeah.
Um, all good there. Um, the uh, the bird sitter thing's hard. Like I've got it. She's a high schooler, pretty good little girl that does my bird sitting I pay her like $10 every day. She comes by, she does it, but like she's the first time she did it instead of egg food, she filled all the egg food bowls just with seed. She didn't understand that there was a separate, stuff like that.
Yep.
It's and I've printed out instructions and had them come over and show them. It's never going to be
Right.
as good as you are.
Right.
So I guess my main advice is don't take vacations.
Yeah, right. We've got a lot of farmers around here, and that's their motto. It's like during the summertime, you don't leave because you just have so much to do, and
Mhm,
wintertime is when you can leave. And it's kind of the same with the birds. It's in the birds, summertime, springtime, that's breeding season. That's when you want to be around. But
mhm.
similar to you, Jay, I I have two people in my people circle that I trust with my birds. And one's my wife, and she doesn't really like my birds, but I do trust her and she does a good job. She does it out of
S-
love, not out of want. Uh,
same boat, same boat.
and then I've got a good family friend that when I go out of town with my family, he's the one that comes and feeds them. He does a great job, and he's actually done it for me now for several years. So he actually has it down to a pretty good system, and it's to the point now where it's like, okay, which cages need egg food, and I can just say, okay, this cage, this cage, this cage, and he's good to go. But I've set up the birds on a watering system, so everything's automated
Hmm.
for the water, and I just ask, just make sure there's water, and they come out of like the little chicken feeder nipple things. So I just tell them,
Hmm.
just flick your finger on there every once in a while. If water comes out, you're good. And for my large cages, Jay, I'm similar on the seed. I've got feeders that can feed for multiple days at a time, and so they just make sure that those are full or top them off if they need to. But my smaller white breeding cages, those feeding containers are a lot smaller, so those ones they do have to replenish those about every other day. If it's breeding season, every day, just to make sure they've got an ample amount of food. And then the egg food dishes. I love the numbering the cages, Jay. That's something that because I've got 20 different cages, and so now it's mine is like, okay, you got the white cages on the right, you've got my two big flights, and then inside those two big flights, you've got several different flights that I built in. So I'm always trying to tell them which ones to go, and it's easy for me to visualize, but it's not easy for them to visualize because they're not in the bird shed all the time. I love the numbering system. I think I'm gonna have to take that and do that and just be like, all right, okay, feed cage 10, they need egg food every day. But so the last so 3 weeks ago, I had multiple work trips all in a row. So I was gone for almost a 2 week period, and my sweetheart fed the birds for me. But it was right when all of my star finches had been hatching eggs, and I've had so much trouble with them earlier in the year that I was like, hey, you've got to I've got this egg food that I made special for the stars. I've got soaked and sprouted seed that I made special for the stars. I'm like, okay, you have to feed by 7 a.m., by 12 p.m., and by 7 p.m. every day, 3 times a day. And I'm like, you can't falter from that schedule because I can't, for some reason they're so picky for me. And she did an awesome job, and actually all the star babies did really good, and a lot of them have fledged out and whatnot. But yeah, I think wintertime's easier to leave, but just trying to, one, make sure you have someone you trust when you go out, and then two, trying to set your birds up as easy as possible, right? Automatic water feed systems. If there's an egg food process or if they need egg food every day, I usually will make a big container and leave it in the fridge or the freezer, whatever that is, so that the people feeding the birds, don't have to make any egg food. It's already prepped for them. They just have to dish it out to the birds, things like that. Trying to make it as easy as possible, but then hopefully the birds don't suffer any and they still get a similar routine to what I've created for them.
Yeah, and I freeze my egg food in individual daily servings. I bought a bunch of like small Tupperware, like Jello size or whatever size it would be. I don't know what people would normally use them for. They're too small for anything useful except like sauces or something, but
Yeah.
they exist. So I just bought a bunch off Amazon, and so all you have to do every day is the ones that were thawed last night go today, and then you take the next set out and thaw them.
Yeah.
And then I've also got Einstein, which he needs human interaction. So like my wife will bring him in and do the dishes with him on her shoulder or whatever. But yeah, I think you're right. Keep it as streamlined and as easy as possible. I would just recommend too, like have the person come with you before you leave
Yeah.
and see the routine if possible. And then written instructions are always healthy. And then
Mm,
like including like things to watch for.
yeah.
And you just got to kind of hope it goes well. And the other thing I always tell people if they're watching my birds is because I don't want them to feel bad and I don't want them to not help me again. I always say, look, they're fragile, they're small, anything can happen. I am not going to hold it against you
Yeah.
if something goes wrong. And then you actually have to stick to that. And there's been a couple times where I've kind of started going on my wife or something. And she said, "You said," and I'm like, "All right, you're right,
Yeah.
you're
I'll,
right."
I'll try and prep them ahead of time too. Like, sometimes, especially with the small finches, there's always, and with how many we have, right, Jay? You always
Mhm.
have one that's old and one that's getting some sort of medication. And the finches are fragile, and so I usually will pre-warn them ahead of time, like, hey, this one is like 8 years old, so if you come in one morning and it's dead, it's due to old age
Right.
and
I
natural causes. I have one that I'm on that's on medication, so there's a chance that it may not make it as well. And so kind of try to prep them ahead of time. And then I with both my wife and the guy that helps feed my birds, I do a Marco Polo video and I go through the bird shed and I say, okay, this is what I do for this one. This is how I feed this one. This is how much
mhm.
egg food I give to this one. So then they have it all on video and they can just go back and rewatch the video. And I tell them they can call me at any time because I'll always
Yeah.
answer the phone for birds and make myself available. So
Absolutely. Yeah, here we are at dang 10:30 my time making a podcast. Yeah,
I
I'm
know.
available for birds. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think that's right. I mean, there's just like, as a parent, if you go out and you leave your kids with the babysitter, anyone who says they don't worry is lying.
Right.
Same thing with the birds. You prep the best you can, find somebody you trust, and then you worry.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
I
But
agree, man.
um, I think that about covers it. What to do if you're going to go on vacation. Obviously, go on vacation. Humans need that. At
Absolutely.
least I know I do. But hopefully this little video helps you sort of wrap your head around some of the things you would do if you were going to go on vacation.
I agree.
All
Well,
right.
Jay, how can they get a hold of you real quick?
If you need to get a hold of me, if you're interested in some baby button quail,
Yeah.
you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, Threads, which sucks, or YouTube. I'm the Javiary or the underscore Javiary, Jayviary on all those platforms. Had a guy message me from Indonesia today, so
Nice.
there's obviously a language barrier. We're working through it. Some Google Translate happening. So no matter where you are in the world, I want to help. Reach out. Let's see what we can do. What about you, Chris?
I love that, man. Yeah, reach out to me. Facebook and YouTube is Bird Nerd. Instagram's Bird Nerd 4. All the same logo. Reach out to me. Love to chat with you guys. Have had quite a few comments this last 2 weeks on some of the videos that we've posted, Jay. So it's been really nice and interacting with people and sending birds out. Still got a few birds left available, a few borks. I also have some button quail as well. They're pretty much all feathered and ready to be shipped out. I've never shipped button quail before, but I would imagine it'd be the same as the other process. And so if you guys are interested in any button quail, hit me up.
Arguably even easier because they are tough. They're a hardy bird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're west of the Mississippi, hit Chris up. If you're east of the
Yeah, there
Mississippi,
you
hit me up.
go. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll split Texas. Yeah.
I love it.
All right. Thanks,
Yeah.
y'all. We'll catch you in the next one.